Hello, members and friends. This is Pastor Wayne Baker bringing you these precious gems, and I hope you're absorbing them. I pray that you will tell your friends about them. Now, this morning we're going to study Romans, the 8th chapter and the 28th verse, a very familiar verse. And those of you who are at Spiritfield, you know that this is one of my favorites. I've quoted this scripture more times than probably any other scripture in the Bible. But here it goes. And we know, see, there's some things that you ought to know. You ought to know. Somebody wrote a book, you ought to know that you know that you know that you know that you've been born again. This is something that you ought to know. You don't have to go to a preacher to check on yourself to see if you're born again, but you ought to know it. And there's another thing you ought to know. You ought to know that all things work together for good to them that love God. You see, when Jesus died, somebody, it was Caiaphas, Annas, the high priest, echoed that someone must die for the sin of the people. Well, he didn't know that God had already ordained that someone die for the sin of the people. So the devil thought they had Christ. The men of that day thought they had Christ. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Herodians, they were the main sect in that day. Thought they had Jesus. But the death of Jesus on the cross played right in the hands of God. God had ordained it. He had planned it all along that Jesus Christ should die for the sin of the world. And all things work together for one thing. And one thing worked together for everything. And everything worked together for the main thing. That is, for the good to them that love the Lord. Figure that out, brothers and sisters. If you love God, even if you make a mistake, God will cover you. There's a story in the Bible about Abraham sending his servant out to seek a wife for Rebekah. Well, not Rebekah. He didn't know Rebekah at that time, but for his son Isaac. And strangely enough, the servant came there and he found a wife for Isaac. It was Abraham's cousin. And he said to the man who found him, said, how did you know that this was it? He said, I, being in the way, was led by the Lord. So if you're in the way, you're in God's will, you are on the right track, even though you get lost sometime in this life. I'll admit. But you got to admit also that all of those things, all the things you've been through, all the things you are in, all the trials, the troubles, the tribulations are working together with good for the good to them that love the Lord. Now, some things I don't like. I don't like a plain biscuit. I don't like flour by itself. But you got to admit, I don't like buttermilk. But if you get some buttermilk, put some flour with it, make some buttermilk biscuit with jam and syrup, that's pretty good. That's how God makes all things work together. Now, any one of those single ingredients are not good for you. Yeah, not good to you, but it's good for you. For example, a salad. I don't like lettuce by itself. I don't like croutons by itself. But you get some lettuce and put some tomatoes with the lettuce and put some mayonnaise or whatever, Italian dressing on it. It's good. And that's how God controls and He works all things together. God bless you today, my beloved, and may you take these gems and meditate on them and digest them, ingest them, and may they bring fruit in your life. Hey, I'm Wayne Baker. I'll see you again with the next gem.